You think you know Texas? The Alamo, South Padre Island, the River Walk? Sure, everybody knows those. But Texas is 268,000 square miles of land, and most of it? Nobody's talking about it. Today we're fixing that. Here are the 19 secret places in Texas I bet you don't know about. Place 19, Gorman Falls, Colorado Bend State Park. Most waterfalls erode over time. They get smaller, quieter, less impressive. Gorman Falls does the exact opposite. This 70-foot waterfall inside Colorado Bend State Park is a living, growing waterfall, the only one of its kind in the entire state. Thanks to mineral-rich spring water flowing over limestone, calcium carbonate deposits build up continuously, forming what's known as travertine. It's a slow process, but it never stops. That waterfall is taller today than it was 10 years ago. The park itself covers 5,328 acres in San Saba County. It was purchased by the state in 1984 and opened to the public in 1987. Getting to the falls takes a 3-mile round-trip hike through rocky, open terrain with very little shade. At the end of the trail, there's a steep, cable-assisted descent to the viewing area. In a Texas summer, that's a real commitment. But park interpreter Debbie Hicks has heard the reaction every time visitors finally get there. On a 100-degree day, it's 20 degrees cooler at the falls. We've had many visitors return and tell us they feel like they've gone to Hawaii. The mossy grottos, hanging ferns, and misting air at the base of the falls are genuinely jarring in the context of the hill country, in the best possible way. You're not supposed to touch the travertine formations, and that's not an arbitrary rule. The travertine is so delicate that, as Hicks puts it, stepping on it is like stepping on a potato chip. One wrong step destroys thousands of years of mineral buildup. So the falls stay roped off from direct access, and visitors appreciate them from the designated overlook. Honestly, the view from there is more than enough. Place 18, Jacob's Well, Wimberley. Jacob's Well is the kind of place that makes you feel very small very quickly. Located near Wimberley in the Texas Hill Country, it's a natural artesian spring that opens into an almost perfectly circular hole, just 12 feet in diameter, that drops 30 feet straight down, before branching into underwater caves and tunnels, reaching a maximum depth of 137 feet. You can see the water down there, clear and blue-green, and the darkness past it. It's unsettling in the best way. The well is one of the most important natural features in the region. It's a primary recharge point for the Trinity Aquifer, supplying drinking water across a wide stretch of the hill country and critical habitat for several endangered aquatic species, including the fernbank salamander, a cave-adapted creature found nowhere else on Earth that has spent so many generations underground it has no functional eyesight. Cave diving here is restricted to certified cave divers only. The system includes passages that narrow dramatically, silt that kills visibility instantly, and currents capable of trapping divers. Several fatalities have occurred here. Swimmers can access the shallow upper portions, which stay at a constant 68 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, which sounds great until you're floating above the entrance to a cave that drops further than a 14-story building. Place 17, Marfa Lights Viewing Area. Marfa, yes, Marfa, but not the Prada Marfa installation. Everybody knows about that by now. The actual reason people have been coming to this stretch of far west Texas desert for over a century is the lights, the Marfa lights. And no, science has not definitively explained them. Since at least the 1880s, residents and travelers in the Chihuahuan Desert near Marfa have reported seeing mysterious glowing orbs drifting across the night sky, sometimes splitting apart, sometimes merging, sometimes blinking out and reappearing elsewhere. A designated roadside viewing area sits about 9 miles east of Marfa on Highway 90, and on clear nights, it draws a steady crowd who've driven hours for a chance to see something they can't explain. The most widely cited scientific explanation involves temperature inversions causing refraction of distant car headlights. It accounts for some of what people see. What it doesn't account for is that reports predate the automobile by decades. Ranchers on horseback were writing about the lights in the 1880s. It also doesn't fully explain movement patterns inconsistent with distant road traffic. Marfa is a small community of roughly 1,800 people, about 3 hours southeast of El Paso, and it's become a genuine arts destination. But the lights are the reason people keep coming back and keep staying late. Place 16, the Blue Lagoon, Huntsville. About an hour north of Houston, tucked inside the piney woods of East Texas, 2 flooded limestone quarries have become something nobody would have predicted: a destination. The water is warm, fed by natural springs, and runs a vivid shade of blue-green that photographs like somewhere in the Caribbean. The surrounding longleaf pines frame it like a scene from a different climate entirely. It goes by the name the Blue Lagoon. The site is privately owned and deliberately low-key about its existence. Admission is capped on a daily basis to keep crowds manageable, and it books up fast on weekends, especially in summer. The main draw for many visitors is scuba diving. There's an on-site dive shop, and certified divers can explore underwater rock formations and equipment left over from the quarry's working days, including large objects that have been deliberately placed over the years to give divers something to navigate around. Visibility in the spring-fed water is exceptional by Texas standards. Swimmers are also welcome in designated areas, though camping is reserved for divers. The vibe is relaxed but structured. They have rules and they enforce them, which is actually part of why the place stays nice. Show up early, bring cash, and leave your expectations about cell service at the highway. Place 15. Hueco Tanks State Park and Historic Site, El Paso County. The name comes from the Spanish word for hollow, and that's exactly what defines this place. Natural rock basins, called huecos, carved into ancient igneous rock formations by thousands of years of wind and water erosion. These basins collect and hold rainwater, and in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert, that makes them extraordinarily valuable. For at least 10,000 years, people have come to Hueco Tanks specifically because water was here when there was none anywhere else for miles. The park covers 860 acres in El Paso County and contains one of the most significant concentrations of ancient rock art in North America. Over 200 pictograph sites have been documented here, containing thousands of individual images created by multiple cultures over thousands of years: Jornada Mogollon, Mescalero Apache, Kiowa, and others. Among those images are painted masks of exceptional quality, recognized by archaeologists as some of the finest and best preserved examples of their kind on the continent. The site is treated accordingly. Access to the majority of the park requires advance reservations and guided tours, limiting visitor numbers and protecting the art from degradation. Self-guided access is limited to one small section. Beyond the history, Hueco Tanks has also built a serious reputation in the international rock climbing community. The volcanic formations offer bouldering problems that attract climbers from across the world, and the park has a designated bouldering season running from September through May. In the heat of a West Texas summer, almost everything here takes a back seat. Place 14, Boca Chica Beach, Cameron County. Boca Chica sits at the absolute southern tip of Texas, the very bottom of the state, where the Rio Grande finishes its long journey and meets the Gulf of Mexico. It's a wide, undeveloped stretch of coastline within a state park that doubles as a national wildlife refuge, and a unit of the Great Texas Coastal Birding Trail. Endangered piping plovers winter here. Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, the rarest sea turtles in the world, come ashore to nest. On a quiet morning in the off-season, it can feel like the end of the earth in a genuinely beautiful way. And then there are the rockets. SpaceX's Starbase launch facility sits directly on the edge of Boca Chica Beach, and on active launch days, this remote barrier island becomes one of the most surreal places in the country to stand. You're watching a vehicle the size of a 30-story building lift off from a beach where sea turtles nest. There's really no other place on Earth where that sentence applies. Beach access is restricted on launch days, so check the schedule before driving out. On a regular day, Boca Chica offers the kind of solitude that's nearly impossible to find on the Texas Gulf Coast. No condos, no beach bars, no traffic. Place 13, Big Thicket National Preserve, Southeast Texas. Big Thicket is not a single park. It's a national preserve spread across roughly 112,000 acres in Southeast Texas, divided into 15 separate land units across multiple counties. No single entrance, no obvious front door. You have to look for it deliberately, and if you do, what you find is one of the most biologically extraordinary places in North America. The thicket sits at the convergence of several major ecosystems: eastern hardwood forests, Gulf coastal plains, Midwestern tallgrass prairies, and Chihuahuan desert all meet and overlap here. 4 species of carnivorous plants grow in the swampy areas. American alligators share habitat with black bears and red-cockaded woodpeckers. Over 185 bird species have been recorded here. Wild orchids bloom in the underbrush. Ecologists call it the biological crossroads of North America, and the label fits. The paddling routes through the old-growth bald cypress swamps are among the most striking in the region. Centuries-old trees rising straight out of dark water, canopies blocking out the sky. On a foggy morning, the light through the branches is something worth the alarm. Most Texans have never set foot here. That's hard to explain. Place 12, Fort Davis National Historic Site, Fort Davis. Fort Davis sits in the Davis Mountains of far west Texas at an elevation of around 5,000 feet, one of the highest towns in the state. It's cooler up there, the light is different, and the landscape of mountain grasslands, volcanic rock, juniper, and pine feels nothing like the Texas most people picture. The fort was established in 1854 along the San Antonio-El Paso Road to protect mail coaches and emigrants traveling a stretch of trail that was genuinely dangerous territory. The site is best known as one of the postings for the Buffalo Soldiers, the African-American cavalry and infantry regiments formed after the Civil War. The 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry all served at Fort Davis between 1867 and 1891. These regiments played a central role in the military campaigns across West Texas that forcibly displaced Comanche and Apache peoples from their homelands. A history that carries real weight and complexity, and the site presents it honestly. Today, Fort Davis is one of the best preserved frontier military posts in the American West. 24 original structures have been restored: officers' quarters, barracks, the post hospital, and over 100 additional ruins remain visible across the grounds. At the end of each visiting day, a recorded retreat parade plays through outdoor speakers, bugles, drums, and commands, recreating the sounds that echoed through this valley in the 1880s. It's a small touch. It lands hard. Place 11, Copper Break State Park, Hardman County. Copper Break State Park sits in Hardman County in the Texas Panhandle, and the name alone signals that this isn't flat prairie. The landscape drops into rugged canyon terrain with exposed red bluffs and clay formations that glow copper and amber in the late afternoon. The park covers 1,897 acres, contains 2 small lakes, and is home to a portion of the official Texas Longhorn herd, which wanders openly and can be spotted from the road. What makes Copper Breaks genuinely worth the drive is its sky after dark. The park holds International Dark Sky Park designation, meaning light pollution. Here is low enough for the Milky Way to be visible horizon to horizon on clear nights, an actual arc of light, not a faint smudge. Ranger-led stargazing programs run April through October. Lake Copper Breaks is stocked with rainbow trout in winter months, drawing a completely different crowd. The land was occupied by Comanche and Kiowa peoples before the Red River War of 1874 effectively ended armed resistance on the southern plains. The park opened in 1970 and remains one of the most consistently overlooked state parks in Texas, which works in your favor when it's time to find a campsite. Place 10, Caddo Lake, Northeast Texas. Caddo Lake is the only naturally formed lake in Texas. Every other large lake in the state is a reservoir, held back by a dam. Caddo formed between 1800 and 1812 when a massive natural log jam on the Red River backed water across the surrounding lowlands. It covers approximately 25,400 acres straddling the Texas-Louisiana border and is one of the largest cypress swamps in North America. The lake is a labyrinth. Channels split and double back. Bayous disappear into bald cypress stands so dense the sun barely reaches the water. Spanish moss hangs from trees that have been in place for centuries. Without a guide or a detailed map, getting turned around on Caddo is genuinely easy. And that's not a complaint, it's the character of the place. The lake supports over 70 species of fish, more than 200 bird species, and a healthy population of American alligators visible from a flat-bottom boat if you move quietly enough. Caddo has been designated a Ramsar wetland of international importance. Guided boat tours operate out of the small community of Uncertain, Texas, a town on the lake's western edge whose name alone justifies the trip. Paddling through the cypress stands at dusk, with herons working the shallows and the light going orange through the hanging moss, is the kind of experience that doesn't translate well into words. Place 9, Shangri La Botanical Gardens and Nature Center. Orange. In the far southeastern corner of Texas, just a few miles from the Louisiana state line, there's a botanical garden and nature center that most Texans have genuinely never heard of. Shangri-La was originally created by H.J. Lutcher Stark, a prominent East Texas businessman and philanthropist, who opened the private gardens in 1942. The property fell into decline over subsequent decades and was eventually closed. It reopened in 2008 after an extensive restoration funded by the Stark Foundation and has been fully public and free to visit ever since. The property spans 252 acres and contains a formal garden, a wetland garden, canoe trails winding through old-growth bald cypress swamp, and a working bird blind positioned directly in front of a great blue heron rookery. During nesting season, typically March through June, dozens of adult herons and their chicks occupy nests right in front of the blind at close range, completely unbothered by visitors. Wildlife photographers make specific trips here for that access alone. Over 300 plant species are documented on the property. There is no admission charge, and most people within an hour of Orange have never made the drive. Place 8, Palo Duro Canyon State Park, Canyon, Texas. The Texas Panhandle has a reputation. Flat, empty, nothing to look at. Palo Duro Canyon exists specifically to correct that. It's 120 miles long, up to 20 miles wide, and drops 800 feet from the caprock rim to the canyon floor. It's the second largest canyon system in the United States, and from the highway running along the top of the plateau, you don't see it coming until you're at the edge. The canyon was carved over millions of years by the prairie dog town fork of the Red River, cutting through the Caprock Escarpment, exposing stacked layers of Permian and Triassic rock, red, orange, white, and banded purple formations that shift in color throughout the day. The lighthouse, a 310-foot hoodoo spire on the canyon floor, is the most photographed feature in the park and the payoff at the end of the most popular hike in the area. The Comanche used Palo Duro as a winter stronghold for generations, protected from the brutal panhandle winds, with reliable water in the canyon bottom. That ended in September 1874, when Colonel Ranald Mackenzie led U.S. Army forces into the canyon during the Red River War, destroyed winter camps and food stores, and slaughtered approximately 1,400 horses to prevent escape. It effectively ended armed Comanche resistance on the southern plains. The park today covers 29,182 acres with over 30 miles of trails. An outdoor musical drama called Texas has been performed in the canyon's natural amphitheater every summer since 1965. Place 7, Natural Bridge Caverns, San Antonio area. About 30 minutes northwest of San Antonio, in a stretch of hill country that looks like nothing but cedar and ranch fence from the highway, a 60-foot natural limestone arch spans the entrance to one of the largest cavern systems ever discovered in the United States. That arch, formed by the same dissolution process that created the cave below, is what gave the place its name. The caverns were discovered on March 27, 1960, by 4 students from St. Mary's University who had been methodically exploring the area on multiple expeditions. What they found below was a cave system of unexpected scale, passages extending deep into the limestone, with 2 primary chambers now known as the Castle of the White Giants and the Hall of the Mountain Kings, reaching up to 60 feet in height. Stalactites, stalagmites, flowstone curtains, and columns had been growing undisturbed for an estimated 140 million years. The main discovery tour covers just under a mile of underground passages. Temperature inside holds at a constant 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. In a Texas summer, stepping underground is the most reasonable decision anyone makes all day. Natural Bridge Caverns operates as a commercial attraction, and it's not entirely unknown, but it is still routinely underestimated compared to the scale of what's actually down there. Place 6, Longhorn Cavern State Park, Burnett. An hour northwest of Austin, Longhorn Cavern has a history that reads like someone assembled it from separate tall tales. The Comanche sheltered here. Confederate soldiers manufactured gunpowder during the Civil War from the bat guano deposited by the millions of Mexican free-tailed bats that once roosted in the cave. Legend, credible enough to have its own named entrance today, holds that the outlaw Sam Bass used it as a hideout in the late 1870s, though historians classify that as unverified folklore. During Prohibition, part of the cave was documented as a working speakeasy and dance hall, operated by the owner at the time with live bands, bootleg whiskey, and candle-lit dinners. That last one is not legend, it's history. Longhorn Cavern is a solution cave, formed not by underground streams, but by water slowly dissolving the limestone from within over millions of years. The result is smoother walls, rounder chambers, and a flowing quality to the rock that distinguishes it from most other Texas caverns. The interior is lined with cave onyx, a translucent banded calcite with a marble-like texture that was historically quarried for decorative use. The state of Texas acquired the property in 1932, and during the 1930s, the Civilian Conservation Corps built the trails and facilities still serving the park today. Place 5, the Chinati Foundation, Marfa. The Chinati Foundation deserves its own entry, separate from Marfa's other draws. because it's genuinely unlike anything else in the United States. Founded by the minimalist artist Donald Judd in 1986, Chinati occupies the grounds of a former U.S. Army installation, Fort D. A. Russell, on approximately 340 acres at the edge of town. Judd had a specific and uncompromising philosophy. Art should exist permanently in a space designed for it, not rotated through commercial galleries on a sales schedule. He wanted people to come here, to this specific desert, in this specific light, to see his work the way he intended. 100 untitled works in mill aluminum fill 2 converted artillery sheds, each piece slightly different in proportion and surface treatment, each interacting differently with natural light, filtering through clear-story windows throughout the day. The idea, Judd said, is that you see the work in its own environment, with its own light. Other permanent installations include large-scale work by Dan Flavin, arrangements of commercial fluorescent lights filling a series of former barracks buildings, along with sculpture by John Chamberlain and work by Klaus Oldenburg and Koosje van Bruggen. The guided tours run several hours and aren't designed to be rushed. Chinati is not a place you drop into for 45 minutes. You clear the day and let it work on you. Place 4, Jefferson, Texas. Jefferson is the kind of town that froze in time, not through neglect, but through a quirk of history that became a gift to everyone who visits now. Located in northeast Texas near Caddo Lake, Jefferson was one of the most economically significant cities in the state during the 1870s. Steamboats ran along Big Cypress Bayou, connecting it to the Red River and the broader Southern trade network. At its peak, Jefferson's population rivaled Dallas and Fort Worth, and its docks handled cotton and goods at a volume few Texas cities could match. Then Jay Gould, the railroad magnate, came to Jefferson looking for a right-of-way. City leaders refused his terms. Gould reportedly signed the Excelsior House Hotel register on his way out with a single line. The end of Jefferson, Texas. He built his railroad elsewhere. The Army Corps of Engineers cleared the logjam on Big Cypress Bayou that maintained the waterway's navigable depth. The steamboat trade collapsed. Jefferson stopped growing. What that means today is a downtown with over 100 structures listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Victorian mansions, 19th century commercial buildings, and streetscapes that survived because nobody had the money or reason to replace them. The Excelsior House Hotel has operated continuously since the 1850s, and the early guest register includes signatures attributed to Ulysses S. Grant and Oscar Wilde. Horse-drawn carriage tours run on weekends. The annual Pilgrimage of Homes in May opens private historic properties to public tours. Jefferson is quiet, carries a slight melancholy, and is entirely worth the detour. Place 3, Gruene Hall, New Braunfels. Gruene Hall opened in 1878, and it is never closed. That makes it the oldest continuously operating dance hall in Texas, a state with no shortage of dance halls, so that title carries real weight. The town of Gruene was founded by German immigrants in the 1870s, thrived through the late 19th century on cotton and ranching, then went nearly dormant during the Great Depression. For years, it sat largely empty. In the 1970s, there were serious discussions about demolition. Preservationists stepped in, a historic district was established, and Gruene survived. The hall looks now almost exactly as it must have in 1878. A long wooden structure with the sides that swing open to the air, a modest stage at one end, a bar running the length of the room, and a ceiling layered in old tin signs, pennants, and generations of memorabilia. The floors are original wood, worn smooth by 150 years of boots. There's no air conditioning. The open walls are the ventilation system. which in a Texas July is either charming or miserable, depending on your threshold for heat and dancing simultaneously. George Strait played here before he was George Strait. Lyle Lovett, Jerry Jeff Walker, and Garth Brooks all performed on that same stage in their early careers. The room holds roughly 600 people. The acoustics are entirely natural. The dancing still happens every weekend, more or less the same way it did when the building first opened. Place 2, San Felipe Springs, Del Rio. Del Rio sits in Valverde County in southwest Texas, about 155 miles west of San Antonio, directly on the Rio Grande across from Ciudad Acuña, Mexico. Most people pass through it on the way to somewhere else. That's a habit worth breaking if you know about the springs. The San Felipe Springs are among the largest in Texas, with more than 10 individual spring vents extending along San Felipe Creek for over a mile before the water feeds into the Rio Grande. They were first documented in a U.S. Army survey in 1849. The expedition report described them as a place of abundant, clear water shaded by large pecan groves, a remarkable find in the dry terrain of southwest Texas and the reason Del Rio grew where it did. At peak historical output, the springs produced tens of millions of gallons of water daily. The spring-fed San Felipe Creek flows cold and clear through the center of Del Rio and has supported local irrigation for more than 150 years. It's a state scenic and natural area and a local swimming and tubing spot that most visitors never find. Just west of town, Amistad National Recreation Area, a massive reservoir on the Rio Grande shared between the U.S. and Mexico, preserves prehistoric rock art and cliff faces above the waterline and offers some of the most remote boating in the state. Place 1, Smither Park, Houston. In the East End neighborhood of Houston, on a half-acre lot on Munger Street, there's a park that looks like someone handed a city block to several hundred artists with no deadline. Smither Park is a community-built mosaic art environment, and it's still being built. Groundbreaking was in 2011, and work continues every Saturday, with local artists arriving to add tile, glass, found objects, and ceramic pieces to a park that keeps evolving. The park was created in memory of John H. Smither, a Houston lawyer, arts patron, and longtime board member of the Orange Show Center for Visionary Art, who passed away in 2002. His widow, Stephanie Smither, collaborated with visionary artist and builder Dan Phillips, whose biography includes stints as an Army intelligence officer, a college dance professor, an art restorer, and a syndicated cryptogram puzzle maker, to design the park with support from the Orange Show and hundreds of contributing artists. Stephanie put it simply, "My husband was involved in the Orange Show since 1988. I wanted to do something in memory of him and the city of Houston." The result includes an amphitheater shaped like a surfacing anglerfish, a pavilion with mosaic tree trunk columns, a 400-foot memory wall, a swing set, a meditation garden, and dozens of standalone sculptures, all surfaced in recycled materials, mirrored armadillos, cats and canoes. Over 300 artists have contributed permanent pieces. Admission is always free. Most Houstonians have never visited. That's genuinely their loss. Texas has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, and honestly, it's doing a convincing job of it. Whether you're drawn to living waterfalls, ancient rock art, ghost-light deserts, underground caverns with speakeasy histories, or a mosaic park built by a community with real feeling, there is far more to this state than what's on the postcards. Now you've got 19 places to start. If you found something here you didn't know about, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people. And subscribe so you don't miss the next one. There's a lot more out there.